Right, I think we are now live. Hello everyone, welcome to Season 4, Round 2 here in the ALR Esports League. My name is Nathan or Natty, whichever you prefer. I'm a new commentator to the league and hopefully will be joining you in the commentary box to see out the remainder of the Esports League in Lobby B. I'm just going to quickly check that my audio is working a-okay, the live stream is live and I'm not just talking to myself, because that would be a complete disaster. Everything sounds good on my end. Let me know what it's like for you guys as well. We've got a full grid of 15 drivers, 5 teams here tonight. We will run through them in qualifying. I'm just going to make sure that everyone's internet is not slower than my hamster, because there were a few issues last week. I wasn't here last week for the season opener at Daytona, but I heard it was a good race, but a couple of connection issues kind of spoiled the party a little bit. Hopefully we're going to have more luck here tonight at Deep Forest in the mountains of Switzerland. I think we're nearly ready to start qualifying. There's just 2 minutes to go till the scheduled start time, so we will just wait a little bit for a couple of these drivers to get their practice laps in, make sure that their connections are running smoothly, and we can have a nice, simple race. So please let me know in the chat if the audio is sounding pretty good. If you don't like the sound of my voice, unfortunately I cannot change that. But hopefully you guys do enjoy this evening's commentary. Maybe I might stick around for a little bit to keep you guys posted with all the live action here in the ALR Esports series. Pretty sure we've got everyone in the lobby that needs to be. So for those of you who missed round 1 at Daytona, I highly recommend you go check that stream out over on the YouTube channel. It's still quite early on in the season, of course, so we can't really tell all too much who might be the dominant team, who's likely to win this season. But so far it's looking very close, fairly competitive. Deep Forest Raceway as well. A track that should promote a great race. We have 48 laps ahead of us before we have a 10-minute qualifying session, which will determine who makes Lobby A and who makes it into Lobby B. I'm just going to wait to have a look and see if Lobby A has started just yet. So we'll try and start things at the same time, so there's not too much delay in between lobbies, setting up the custom grid. For those of you who are new to the series, perhaps a reminder that top 15 drivers from qualifying go to Lobby A, and the second half of the grid go to Lobby B. More points on offer for Lobby A. I think we're ready to get this one underway. I've not heard anything in the chat, so I'm a little bit concerned that the audio isn't coming through clean. I'll just give it another quick check before we get started. Pretty sure everyone is in, so we can get qualifying underway. Audio is good, thank you. Audio is loud and clear. We are good to go for the 10 minutes qualifying session here at Deep Forest Raceway. There's 2.6 mile circuits. We've got 18 corners for these drivers to navigate as cars leave the garage, through the pit lane, and out they come onto the racetrack. Who is first out on track? It could be Zico. Indeed it is. Now, just a word of warning, apologies for if I get any of the names wrong, any of the team names wrong. Like I mentioned earlier, this is my first commentary for this league, so I've just got to get a little bit up to scratch with who's driving for who. hopefully it will be a nice smooth evening. Deep Forest Raceway is a track that has seen a couple of changes between Gran Turismo 6 and Gran Turismo 7, most notably turn 10 and the final 4 corners. The hairpin at turn 14 has been significantly tightened and the straight is longer. Yes, this race stream is live, happening right now. The two, who have we got at the front? It's going to be FDR Matty who's going to lead the field away in the Lamborghini Huracan to start the first qualifying lap here tonight, and we'll set a benchmarker for the other drivers behind to follow. Hello everyone joining us in the chat. 15 drivers tonight from a couple of, we've got 5 teams in this lobby, 5 teams in lobby A. The quickest 15 go to lobby A, the slowest 15 are stuck with me. Some may see that as a good thing, some may see that as a bad thing. Apologies if you hear clicking in between random moments of silence. I'm just trying to get the lineups on my screen, so it will be a nice smooth race. Matty, though, making his way through the middle sector here in Deep Forest, really pushing the Lamborghini to its strengths. It might be a car that's good in qualifying, but the Lamborghini might struggle a little bit during the race, does lack a little bit in terms of straight line speed, but a couple of aero changes might give it that boost it needs down this long back straight in towards the hairpin down at turn 14. Foot flat to the floor. Now late on the brakes down in towards the hairpin, hooks up the apex nicely on the inside, uses all the exit curb available on the outside, as does his teammate following behind, just about in range of a slipstream, I think, maybe just a little bit too far behind to get the effects of the toe. But the first qualifying here tonight in this 10-minute qualifying session will be set by Matty as he comes across the line as 1 minute 25.5. His teammate behind goes 800ths slower, 3/10 behind for Phenomena in third, quickly beaten by Attengren, who goes onto the second row of the grid. Luigi, though, goes up into provisional pole position, closely following his teammates down in towards turn 1, who I think acted as a bit of a tow down the start-finish straight to put that Lamborghini for the Spider GT team on a provisional pole position by 3.5 tenths. A couple of more drivers setting in their lap times. Fluffy Butt goes up into third place, just beating out Skyline to fourth. Some dust, some dirt and gravel being thrown up as drivers use all of the inside curve through the left-hander at turn 9. The penalty for Phenomena, he will have to serve that down the back straight, as it's now Ramster who's in behind Luigi. So Luigi had the tow, now gives the tow for his fellow teammate. One driving the Lamborghini, the other in the Honda NSX. Up in front of them, Attengren, who was in third, now down into 6th place. Will be looking to improve on his qualifying time, but it's going to be Matty again who's first over the line for his second flying lap. Where can the Lamborghini driver put himself? Improves by 2/10, but doesn't improve his position. His teammate behind goes up into 4th place and closes that gap to what was Luigi, but Ate, but he goes up into 3rd place, does Attengren. Thunderdome goes into just outside the top 10, I believe, in 11th place with a 1 minute 29.6, just 9/10 off pole position, which is currently held by Luigi. 125.1 as the Lamborghini slides his way through the first sector, and I was going to say gets in the way of his teammates a little bit, does let him through on the inside of turn 6. But one driver yet to set a lap time. Long Chicken, he's down the start-finish straight now. How can the German place his Lamborghini? Can he improve from bottom of the grid? Unfortunately, he cannot. 1.5 tenths off 14th. Only 1.3 seconds off provisional pole position though. That's a pretty good lap time. As Luigi sets himself up for a flying lap. Matty is into the pits. We got fans for Zikos in the chat, cheering him on from his home nation. As a number of drivers are into the pits. Atom Grim into the pits for the half-second time penalty. Iggy is also into the pits in the 4GT, and he's followed in by his teammate as well. Several drivers coming into the pits to get on a fresh set of rubber to improve on their qualifying lap. 6 minutes in, 4 minutes to go of this 10 minutes qualifying session. And Zico is purple through sector 1. Can he improve on his 125.4? He needs to find 2.5 tenths to go onto provisional pole position. 1 tenth to go on to the front row of the grid. We've got a spinner down at turn 5. Not sure who that is. We can catch that in a second. It's always fun trying to find the driver that's spun. It is Thunderdome. Let's watch what's happened to the South African on a flying lap in the BMW M6. Too much inside curb perhaps, gets a little bit out of shape, runs wide, the back end steps out. And thankfully for the other drivers behind, span off the racing line and can recover and go up for another lap once again. A lot of drivers on outlaps. Zico is into the pits. Bailed out of that lap time, I think. Fluffy Butt is also into the pits, or has just left the pits, in fact, for a fresh set of tyres, but picks up a 3-second time penalty for cutting over the white line. A little bit of traffic forming in the final sector as drivers are preparing to start what could be their penultimate flying lap in qualifying. 2.5 minutes left on the clock. And it's our provisional pole sitter who is leading this train down and towards turn 1. These drivers almost racing down towards the first corner. Matty is eyeing up a move on Ramster into the first corner. Might try and go round the outside perhaps. These race drivers just want to race. Hello Ryan in the chat. Hope you're having a fantastic day, evening or morning from wherever you are watching in the world. Oh, we've got the clock on the screen now as well. 2 minutes, just under 2 minutes left to go in qualifying. A penalty for our provisional pole sitter, but giving a nice tow to his teammates behind him. Matty's backed out of that lap, so he won't be improving on this time round. He'll go for it once again for one final time. Let's try and find the drivers who are going through the final corner. It's always a challenge. There's 15 of them, and it's always the 15th driver that I click on. There we go, we got there in the end, and it's Fluffy Butt on an out lap, starting his final lap in qualifying, crossing the line with 1 minute 10 seconds left to go. Back up to this train of cars that made their way through the final proper corner, but it's turn 14 out of 18 on this circuit. Altengren following his Spider GT teammate Luigi down the start-finish straight. One of these drivers is on pole position, or provisional pole position, the other in 4th place. And of course, position is just representative of this lobby. It's lap time we need to be looking at. Ramster goes up into 8th place, 5 tenths off of the provisional pole time. He's going to have one more bite of the cherry as Luigi improves and goes even quicker. Not by much, improved by 500ths on his lap time. Fancy Lock improves and goes into 11th place with a 1:26 flat. Only 8.5 tenths off provisional pole and 600ths off a nomina. Matty might be a little bit too close behind Altengren through this middle sector. Having said that, he's got a little bit of a gap, but he shouldn't catch him by the end of his qualifying lap. Runs a little bit wide though onto the grass on the exit of turn 13. Not turn 13, sorry, turn 10. As the clock has hit 0, we are on the final laps here in qualifying. Apex, no, it's not Apex. Apologies. Who's the driver that's about to come across the line? We will get there in time. It's Fluffy Butt. Does he improve? No, he doesn't. He's 200ths off improving. Why is it such a challenge to try and find the drivers that are approaching the line? Zico's one of them. He's following Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't improve. Zico does, up into 3rd place with a 25.3. What about the Spider GT drivers? They come across the line in single file. Attengren gets the jump on Iggy with a 25.3 as well. Only a tenth and a half off provisional pole, but he's beaten by Iggy, who goes up into second place and the front row of the grid for him, although it might be a lap time good enough to get into Lobby A. Anomana moves into the top 8 with a 25.6, and we've only got 1 or 2 drivers left on a flying lap. One of them is Long Chicken, but I think he's backed off of his lap already in the 1 minute 28, which means Otto Rashilon, apologies, in the Audi R8 will be the last driver to set a competitive flying lap up to the line for the Austrian. Can he improve on his 25.8? No, he can't, and that will be his best lap time for this evening's qualifying. So here's how the lap times stack up. Luigi with a 25.1, 10th quicker than Iggy with a 25.2. Next up, Matty in third, 25.3. 3 drivers in the 1 minute 25.3s. Fluffy Butts with a 25.5. Skyline also setting 25.5, and Anomana rounding out the top 8. Just behind them, Rampster in 9th, or Auto Rashilon in 10th, Fancy Locks in 11th, Hollywood in 12th, Thunderdome in 13th, Work Jumps in 14th, and Long Chicken in 15th. And so now we wait to see who makes it into Lobby A and who's stuck with me in Lobby B. We'll just keep flicking in between the two halves of the grid. The BMW M6 is not really faring too well at this circuit. It's a car that might be decent, or should be decent, fairly decent through the middle sector, the technical part of the track, but will struggle for sector 3 for that straight line speed. But the Lamborghini Huracan and the Aston Martins both getting 2 cars into the top 6. Whilst we wait for the lobbies to get organised, when we know who's in what lobby, let's talk a little bit about the track. Deep Forest Raceway, 18 corners around this 4.2 kilometre circuit, approximately 50 metres in elevation from the lowest to the highest point. Not much really to say about this track, located in the mountains of Switzerland. Had some changes made from its last appearance in Gran Turismo, notably a longer back straight and a tighter hairpin at turn 14. Some people are a fan of these changes, others aren't. I, for one, am a fan of the change, although I wish the hairpin at the end of the long back straight was a little bit more open, not as tight. Kind of makes for some awkward overtaking. But the perfect opportunity for an overtake, as well as some carnage down and towards a heavy braking zone. I think Deep Forest is quite a popular track among drivers. And it's one that promotes very close racing. If we look here, we've got the top 8 separated by 0.4 of a second. I think we're getting ready. I think the grids are just being made. Let's see what activity have we got going on in the chat. Hello, welcome to everyone who is just tuning in. If you are just tuning in, we are in the intermittent period between qualifying and the race. Drivers are preparing themselves to enter either lobby A or lobby B. We've got two lobbies open at the minute. The fastest 15 drivers go to lobby A and the slowest 15 go to lobby B. We're just working out who is in what lobby, getting everything set up and ready. If we've got any cars out on track, we do not. And there we go. If any of the drivers are watching, the lobbies are in the chat. And I have to say, it is very close. Only a second and a half separating what would be pole position to last place if we had a full grid of 30. Now I've got to wait for everyone to either load in or leave before I can change the lobby settings. If any of the drivers are watching and you haven't accepted me as a friend, please go ahead and do that and we will get you in the lobby. I nearly just left the lobby, that wouldn't have been great. We will get a time to change the lobby settings, viewers. I promise that. I promise you that we will. I will try and find a time in between drivers joining and leaving the lobby to change the settings. Who's on each team? Right, so the best way to have a look at who's on whose team is to look at the livery. I will go through the teams just as we are about to start the race. I'm going to try and change the lobby settings first to the actual race settings. Got to try and find a time in between the drivers joining and leaving. There we go. So who should we have in this lobby? We've got 3 drivers from Apex, Fluffy Butt, Hollywood and Thunderdome. They are all from Apex and will be in this lobby. Project Platypus have got 1 driver in here tonight. That is Skyline. Aero GT have got Fancy Locks and Anomina starting in 11th and 3rd place respectively. Spider GT got 2 drivers into lobby A. Ramster just missed out by 0.2 of a second, so he starts in 5th. For FGR, Rupee is in this lobby, the sole FBR driver in lobby B. And Project Racing United have got 3 drivers in tonight, Whack, Long Chicken and Auto Rationalon. Has everyone joined already? That's very impressive, actually, it has to be said. I'm going to make the grid. Apologies if there's any silence. I cannot do 2 things at once because I am a man famous for not being able to work 2 parts of the body at the same time. And as such, the speed of the commentary will decrease as we get these drivers into their correct starting positions. I think we're just missing 1 driver, so we'll get back to him in a minute. There's Ryan. Oh, there's Ryan. Apologies, viewers, about this silence. I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's in the correct starting positions, which they're not. And now they are. We are almost ready to start the Swiss Grand Prix. 48 laps of this circuit. We're about to get underway. Let's go through your starting grid then for today's race. Fluffy Butt is on pole position, followed by Skyline in second, Anomena in third, Los Blanco in fourth. Ramster is in fifth, Rupee in sixth, Ryan in seventh, Alessandro in eighth, or I'll never get this right. Or Auto Rashilon in 9th, Autonomous in 10th, Fancy Locks in 11th, Hollywood in 12th, Thunderdome in 13th, Whack Jams in 14th, and Long Chicken in 15th place. Let's get this race underway for 48 laps of Deep Forest Raceway. We've got 15 drivers on the grid tonight, 5 red lights, 48 laps of this 4.2 kilometre circuit. We've got a jump start at the back and we go racing here in Deep Forest Raceway. It's a great start from one of the Spider GT drivers in the midfield, but Fluffy Butt leads the field away down towards the first corner. It was Ramster who's up into second place. We've got to wait. I will continue commentary for now until I find out what's happened. Not sure what's gone on there, but a restart. I didn't see anything in the chat that said otherwise, but we will restart this race. I'll try and find out what went on there. Not sure what's happened, but looks like the grid has remained the same. Apologies, viewers, about the abrupt start. Just going to double check that the grid has been set correctly. And by the sounds of it, everyone is ready to get this race underway. So at the second time of asking, we will go racing here at Deep Forest Raceway. Nothing is stopping us from getting this race started. So, without further ado, let's get this race now properly underway. First the worst, second the best. The second time of trying to get this race underway. Drivers revving their engines, the lights are counting down. 15 drivers, 5 teams, 48 laps of this 4.2 kilometre circuit. It's lights out and we go racing here in Deep Forest Raceway for the Swiss Grand Prix. It's a great start once again for Ramster in the Spider GT driver, but Fluffy Butt leads the field away down towards turn 1. 3 wide in the background between, I think that was the two, I'm not sure who it was. I think that was Rupee and Ryan going side by side. Ramster though up into second place, leading Anomala down towards turn 4. Skyline though having a look up the inside, makes a little bit of contact with the Aero GT car that's nearly wide and in the barrier on the outside of turn 7. Might lose 1 or 2 positions to the American, trying to go right round the outside in the pink Audi R8. But Anomala moves up into 4th place and keeps that position for now. We're making our way down the back straight for the first time this evening. And it's Fluffy Butt that leads the field away down in towards turn 14. Are we going to have anyone late on the brakes? That's Ryan looking for a move on Rupee, just put the pulls out of it in the end. Fancy Locks looking for a move on Long Chicken. A little bit of contact between the Ford GT and the Lamborghini Huracan, but the German and the Brazilian now run side by side, door to door down the pit straight. They make contacts, bang wheels as Long Chicken concedes the inside line and Fancy Locks takes the position. Back up to the front of the pack though, Ramster and Skyline side by side. The Porsche on the inside of the Honda, and Skyline gets that position, and behind Baba Yaga gets up into 4th place. Apologies if I mispronounce any of the names. Of course there are drivers from the Lobby A that they've moved down into Lobby B, and then I've got to get used to a new set of names. In the midfield though, it's Ryan in the Lamborghini attacking Auto Ratchelon for 7th place, but he's also got to think about Alessandro behind him in his rear view mirrors. Once we started the race, I forgot to press the button to get a race replay of the start. Silly me. But Fluffy Butt leads the field away down the back straight in towards the hairpin. Has a 1.4 second advantage over Skyline behind, and Ramster rounds out the top 3. That's Ryan looking for a move late on the brakes down the inside, nearly hits the back of Rupee in front of him, runs wide and concedes 1, 2, maybe 3 positions. There's a car round in the back. It's a Ford GT. And it's Fancy Locks. The Brazilian has dropped it and he's picked up rear bumper damage, which will hinder his straight line speed for the next 30 seconds. Fortunately for him, the pack is still close together and battling out on circuit, losing a little bit of time. Autonomous drifting his way through the first corner in the Toyota Supra, keeping that car in a straight line just about. But back up to the front of the field, Fluffy Butt maintains that 1.3 second advantage as he has done over Skyline, the driver for the Apex team, and Project Platypus running in 1st and 2nd. Spider GT for Ramster up into 3rd place after starting this one in 5th. Baba Yaga running in 4th place in that Audi. What sort of attack can he propose on the Honda in front of him? He's tucked up nicely in the slipstream. We're on board. If I can find it, there we go. On board with the Audi R8. Ramster doesn't decide to defend the inside line. And the Americans late on the brakes. Down the inside, up into third place, but runs a little bit wide on the exit. Allows for Ramster to try the up and under. The old switcheroo, there's contact between the two. But Ramster stays ahead for now. But contact, a little bit of contact between the two on the exit of the first corner. Ramster holds third place for now. Looking back towards the rest of the drivers behind, all single file as they make their way in towards sector 2. Let's just go back a couple of laps ago. They had this move on Ryan down the inside. Late on the brakes, nearly hits the car in front of him. And then in a minute, you're about to see the Ford GT get spun round. That was Long Chicken making contact with the Brazilian. That's what caused that spin on lap 2. As we now cut back to the live action here on lap 4. Whack Jamps eyeing up a move down the inside of Apex. Was that contact between the two? I don't think there was. The Apex driver goes round the outside and then allows for the other Apex driver of Hollywood to try and swoop round the outside on the exit of the hairpin. Whack being really caught up, having taken the narrow inside line through turn 14. And in trying to attack the position, has ended up losing one to Hollywood in front. Does he think about a lunge down the inside? No, he doesn't. It's a little bit too early in the race to be thinking about sending one down the inside from that far back. But back up to our race leader. The gap has come down, was 1.3, now 1.0. The top two both running the soft compound tyre, the fastest compound available. And they've got a little bit of a gap to Ramster behind. 3.4 seconds is the gap between second and third. Only 5/10 though is the gap between Baba Yaga and Ramster. These two have come close on track before, and there's plenty of laps left for them to come close once again. Going in towards the hairpin at turn 14, the Audi just eyeing up that Honda for a move in towards turn 1 perhaps, and will use the straight line speed of that R8 to try and mount an attack. A couple of drivers going side by side. It's Alessandro and Ryan making their way down the start-finish straight side by side, wheel to wheel. The Belgian and the Italian up front though to the American and the Dane. And that's Baba Yaga down the inside and up into third place, into a podium position. Meanwhile, Ryan and Alessandro still going side by side, but it's the Lamborghini of Ryan ahead of the Nissan of Alessandro. We've got a split in the strategy here tonight. A couple of drivers opting to start on the medium compound tyres, a couple of them on the soft. We've got a couple of soft runners stuck behind, some on the mediums. And DeForest is a relatively easy track to overtake, but if you're in a slipstream train, it becomes an awful lot harder. If the car in front of you is getting a tow by another car, giving them that extra straight line speed advantage down the back straight. But our race leader still holds that 1 second advantage over Skyline in second, pulling out a gap of 3.6 seconds to Baba Yaga behind. Ramster's just losing touch with the American in front, a second now splitting the two, and he's looking in his rear view mirrors to find a Porsche 911 getting closer and closer to the back of his Honda. Because going into turn 1, the gap's only 0.3 of a second and closing. Behind them, Alessandro has the gap over Long Chicken to stay in 9th place as the German in the Lamborghini runs deep in towards the first corner. Behind him, Thunderdome has a lead penalty. Both Apex drivers have picked up a 5/10 penalty. presumably for track limits through turn 14, maybe running wide on the exits of the hairpin. Thunderdome looking for a move down the inside of Long Chicken in towards turn 6. Not the easiest corner to go for a move. But both of those Apex drivers are going to have to slow down for half a second and serve that time penalty. Before that, though, they're going to try and make an overtake on Long Chicken, but the German will get that position back. This could promote the Brit of Whack Jamster up a couple of positions. He's 1.4 seconds behind the Apex drivers. And he get a little bit closer by the time they get to the braking zone at turn 14. He's now within just 0.8 of a second of the two cars in front. And the two M6s find themselves in the Racing United sandwich. It's looking a little bit overcast out on the track at the minute, but there's no chance of rain. We're on lap 8 of 48, 41 laps to go here in the second round of Season 4 of the ALR Esports League. Fluffy Butt leads after starting from pole position, but it's Skyline in second with the fastest lap of the race. Baba Yaga has pulled away from Ramster as he battles off a Nomina for 5th place. Rupee in 6th has a little bit of a gap to Ryan in 7th. Not much of an advantage for those guys though. Apex are having quite a mix of results here tonight. They've got one driver leading the field, but they've got two of them bringing up the rear, battling with the Project Racing United drivers of Whack and Long Chicken. Fluffy Butt leads the field away down to start lap number 9. Ryan, though, in 7th place, is looking to get a move on FGR and promote himself up into the top 6. We're on board with the Lamborghini now, running in towards the first corner, braking just before the 100-metre board, just looking for a gap on the inside that was ever closing. Behind them, though, two Apex drivers running in 11th and 12th. We've got this long train of cars that have started to form in the midfield behind FGR Rupee. He is on the medium compound tyres. A couple of cars behind him also on the mediums, but some have opted to start on the softs. The fastest race tyre available out of the three compounds that we have tonight, the soft, the medium and the hard. Drivers have to use two different compounds throughout the race, I believe. Please correct me if I am wrong. But on lap 9, Rupee has the gap over Ryan to not need to defend his position too much down towards the hairpin at turn 14. I don't know why it says for the drivers to refuel on the screen every time you get to the pit lane entrance. The drivers have plenty of fuel to get them through a decent number of laps in this race, none of which that they're going to run out in the next 2 or 3. Skyline, though, for the Project Platypus team, hunting down Fluffy Butt for the lead of the race. The gap has been fluctuating, and it's going to change even more because the race leader has picked up a 5/10 penalty over the course of this lap and will have to slow down for half a second to serve that penalty. That's going to bring Skyline back into the fight for the lead of this race. He's got a good exit as well through turn 11, and he might even find himself looking for a move down towards the hairpin at turn 14. The race leader slows down for his designated time, and that's brought Skyline back into the battle for the lead of the race. He's in the slipstream now. What he's got to do is try and stay there without burning up his tyres too much. does have better tyre life at this phase of the race. Fluffy Butt might have been pushing to try and stretch that gap. Ramster, though, is caught up to the back of Baba Yaga in the battle for third place and the final spot of the podium in Lobby B. The gap only 0.3 of a second and not gaining. Maybe Ramster is beginning to save a little bit of fuel, perhaps, in this race. I'll be honest, I cannot remember what this replay... Oh, this is a replay of the spin that we had earlier involving Fancy Locks and Long Chicken. There it is once again for anyone who missed it. That's what sent the Brazilian driver to the back of the grid, running 30 seconds behind our race leader, who is under pressure from Skyline. Only 0.5 of a second between the top two in this race, and the fuel light for the Aston Martin is beginning to flash, and now we should start considering pit stops for tyres and fuel. Of course, there's the battle for third place as well. Baba Yaga holding on to third place for now. Does have a lot more fuel than our race leader, actually. That could be a concern for the Aston Martin driver. He's burnt through a lot more of his fuel and more of his tyres compared to the cars around him. I don't know if you saw that for a second, but the gap between Ramster and Baba Yaga was the exact same as it was between Ramster and Anomina. 0.7 of a second. The drivers running in third, fourth and fifth. Meanwhile, behind them, Ryan has got a 0.5 advantage over Rupi, the German, attacking the Belgium, going towards the end of Sector 1. And behind them, Long Chicken is putting up her defensive work on both Apex drivers. Project Racing United running in 10th and 13th. Thus far in this race. We've got another driver, I think, in this lobby. Yes, Long Chicken, sorry. Move for the lead, question mark, says Perry. Perhaps not on this occasion. Skyline not close enough to go for the move down and towards the hairpin, but can either look up a move down and towards the first corner. He's certainly gaining on the start finish straight as we start lap 13 of 48, 0.2 between them heading in towards turn 1, and Skyline's closing that gap lap by lap. He's getting closer and closer. It's a case of sooner rather than later, perhaps. Ramster as well, he's only 2 seconds behind a podium position. Baba Yaga holding on to that position for now in the Audi R8, but only 0.4 separating the top two in this race. It's Apex against Project Platypus. The Aston Martin just keeping the Porsche behind for now. This could be Skyline's best chance at an attack. He's only 0.2 behind down the back, straight in towards the hairpin. Is he going to look for a move late on the brakes? Lifts off the throttle, backs out of it in the end. But will set himself up for a potential move in towards the first corner. Behind them, I think that was Baba Yaga running a little bit wide. Indeed it was. He's wide off the track. That's going to allow Ramster a chance at an overtake. The leaders are into the pits. Ramster follows them in. Baba Yaga stays out. Ramster was on the medium tyres. That's a great shift from Ramster to be that competitive on the mediums when drivers around him were on the softs. So Baba Yaga takes the net lead of the race from Nomina in second. Ryan now battling for what is a podium position essentially as Rupi tries to go the long way right round the outside through turn 1 but can't quite pull it off on this lap. maybe the grip on those soft compound tyres just aren't giving him enough grip he needs. Ryan, of course, racing for 9 Pegasus Panthera, and is 6.5 seconds behind his teammate, who takes the net lead of the race. 1.4 seconds ahead of Anomina. Drivers have made their first stop in this race after 13 laps. We'll go and see what tyres they put on in a little bit. Ryan's got a gap to Rupy behind. He's not going to be under much pressure down towards the hairpin, but still has to nail the braking zone. And Baba Yaga stays out for another lap, as does Anomina. A lot of these drivers doing really well, so conserve fuel in this early stint and go a couple laps longer. As Ryan and Rupy are both into the pits off of the softs and the mediums respectively. Fluffy Butt was on the softs, he's gone on to the mediums, as has Skyline behind. Ramster though, he started on the mediums and he's gone on to the softs. Similar amount of fuel for all those drivers. Full tanks, I believe, which will get them close to the end of the race. Drivers leaving pit lane. This could be quite close between Rupy and Ramster going in towards turn 1. Nearly contact between the two Japanese manufacturers, but it's the Honda that comes out in front, and Rupy's onto a set of the soft compound tyres as well. Rupy, interestingly, putting in less fuel than the cars around him. I was going to say, I didn't think he was that close to the back of Ramster, but Ramster opting for a full tank. Ryan getting the jump on Ramster. He's only put in half a tank of fuel as well to see out a stint on the soft compound tyres. So there's plenty of strategy on offer here tonight. Some drivers going soft medium, some going soft soft, some going medium soft, others putting in a full tank of fuel, others only opting to fuel for the stint. Anomina is going to be, I think, the last driver to make a pit stop. He stays out for another lap. Thunderdome comes into the pits with nothing in the tank, as does Baba Yaga, Alessandro and Tominus. And so Fluffy Butt will retake a spot on the podium, but of course was in the net lead of the race. With Rupy looking for a move down the inside of Ramster in towards turn 1. Alessandro exits the pit lane behind them. They're nearly 3 wide going into turn 1 because Baba Yaga exits the pit lane in front of them, and side by side with Rupy in the battle for 5th place. Can he get the jump on the German? There's contact and he's in the wall. The Audi's hit with bumper in front left, suspension damage, and will lose maybe another position to the Austrian behind, who now goes up into 8th place. But as Rupy was eyeing up a move on Ramster, Baba Yaga exits the pit lane in front of them and then becomes the victim of a crash at turn 3. Nomina makes his first pit stop of this evening, as Ramster's lost time to Rupy in front and could be under pressure from Alessandro behind. Ryan nearly lost the rear of the car. I saw his arrow flickering on the mini-map on the exit of turn 14 as he hunts down Skyline. Thought it was going to be 2nd place as Anomina makes his pit stop. He could be involved in this battle for 4th place. We might see a car coming out of the pit lane in shots. There he goes up into 2nd place. He's got the jump on Skyline. Skyline, of course, put a little bit more fuel in. Some drivers opting for full tanks, some opting for half, and that's really shuffled the grid order around. as we approach a third of the way in this race. Let's go back to a lap ago where we watched this battle for 6th place. Let's ride on board with Ramster. There's Baba Yaga coming out of the pits. Rupee goes deep and wide into turn 1. Baba Yaga and Rupee then run side by side up the hill. And that's a very bizarre accident. I don't think there was contact between... Well, there was contact between Ramster and Rupee, but it didn't look like there was contact at all between the American. Rupee, though, down the inside of Ramster as we cut back to the live action, down towards turn 14. Rupee's got the position and moves up into the top 5, but he's got a long straight to defend it. 0.48 miles, I believe, is this straight from turn 14 to turn 1. Alessandro's got the run on Ramster. Ramster's got the run on Rupee. The Dane, though, being blocked in by the cars around him. Alessandro now down the inside of the Dane, in towards turn 1. The Nissan on the inside of the Honda and moves up into 6th place. Not sure what has happened actually to Baba Yaga, who appears to have either disconnected or retired from this race, having been involved in that accident a couple of laps ago. But the battle for 2nd place is on. It's Skyline against Anomina down the back straight. The two Porsches banging wheels through the tunnel. Who's going to be last of the late breakers? It's going to be Ryan on the inside. They're 3 wide temporarily. Anomina down the inside of Skyline, nearly loses the rear on the exit of the corner. Ryan now in the draft of Skyline in front of him, moves up into a podium position and finds himself in a Porsche sandwich as Rupee looks to get involved in on the action. Ryan having a look on the inside, going in towards turn 1. Having to defend as well from the cars behind. They're 3 abreast, down and towards turn 1. Rupee in the middle, Anomina on the outside, but it's Ryan on the inside and into 3rd place. Rupee and Anomina will continue to go door to door, side by side, up the hill, through the left kink, into the right-hander of turn 3, where Baba Yaga had his crash 2 laps ago. Alessandro now down the inside of Anomina, the Italian and the Pole, side by side. The Nissan getting the jump on the Porsche, and Ramster looking to try and go right round the outside. This is close racing between the drivers up in the upper midfield and for the spots on the podium. Skyline 4/10 clear of Ryan. Will that be a big enough gap to keep the Lamborghini behind? As the train of cars are single file down the through the tunnel, down the back straight. Ryan's looking for it. He's late on the brakes. He's down the inside. He's made the move. Can he make it stick? Ramster as well, getting a couple of positions behind him. Ryan unable to make that move stick. We're on board with the Lamborghini, looking at the back of that Porsche. Does he go left? Does he go right? Skyline defends the inside line from Rupee behind. Not Rupee, sorry, from a Skyline. But it's a late move to the inside. Ryan makes contact with the Porsche and goes down the inside. Can Rupee capitalise? Is he close enough to capitalise? Ryan, though, gets the move done up into 2nd place. And behind them, the battle for 5th has just about fizzled out between Alessandro and Ramster. It's fantastic between these drivers battling for 2nd place. Let's go watch that one more time real quick. We're going to watch it down in the hairpin. Late on the brakes, down the inside. Was he successful? Not on this occasion, but fast forward to turn 1 and he made that move stick. We are back to the live action. A penalty for someone in the midfield. Skyline tries to defend the inside, but Rupee goes aggressive to the inside. Late on the brakes, down the inside. Skyline tries the old up and under, the switcheroo on the Nissan GTR. And it's Ramster with the penalty, running in 6th place. He will drop a couple of positions as the two Germans battling for the final step on the podium to end lap 20, start lap 21. The sun beginning to set and the exit of the first corner. These drivers, though, lighting up the circuit with racing action and entertainment. Rupee down the inside, Skyline's wide. He loses a position to Alexandro, who's also on the inside and up into 4th place. Ramster, though, will be looking to try and get involved in this battle for 5th, but unfortunately for him, has picked up another half-second penalty, bringing his total up to 1 second. And that's definitely going to drop him out of this battle for 5th place and a couple of seconds behind Skyline was running in 2nd place a couple of laps ago. He's now running in 5th, and that's how much it can change here this evening. Fluffy Bar is being able to run away with this one, as it seems, with these drivers fighting in the midfield. Ryan's pulled out a 1.3 second gap to the car behind. He's got himself a little bit of breathing spells to the FGR driver running in 3rd place. Rupee's got Alessandro closely behind him. I didn't mean to press that button. We were on board with the GTR. Rupee go heavily defensive, nearly into the pit wall on the inside. Rupee defensive from Alessandro, who's going to try and go the long way round and swoop it round the outside. Will he be shown any space? He's shown nothing but the curb. Rupee is going to... the elbows are out. We saw how defensive he moved to the inside. I wonder if we can go further back than that. No, we can't. We can just see them making their way through the first corner. But Rupee right up to the inside barrier, almost in the pit wall, to defend that position. Meanwhile, the battle for 11th place, Hollywood and Thunderdome, the two Apex drivers running in just outside of the top 10. They've got a couple of seconds to catch up to the back of Whack Jabs, who's running in 10th place. But for 6th place, it's Ramster attacking the Austrian. Auto Rachelon trying to keep the Honda behind. How long can he keep Ramster behind him? They make their way through the final corner, turn 18. Long swooping uphill left-hander. The Audi defensive to the inside. Is he close enough to try and go for a move on the in or outside? He lays it late. He dives it down the inside. Can he slow it down in time? No, he can't. Auto Rachelon tries the up and under and gets the cut back on the Dane, but has got room on the inside. The Austrian leaves the door open. Dips the wheel onto the grass. Has he got grip to send it down the inside? That's a beautiful move from Ramster to move himself up into 6th place. It's not often you see overtakes in the first sector of this track, apart from turn 1. But to do it through turn 4 and 5 was a very beautiful overtake. Ramster now on a charge, having served his 1 second tyre penalty, and also on the soft compound tyres. A little bit of fresher softs in the cars around him, having started on the mediums. But it'll be interesting to see how this race pans out, because we've got drivers on different strategies that shuffled the order a lot, and we've seen a lot of on-track action which has slowed some of them down, might compromise their own individual races. Meanwhile, though, the battle for 6th place continues to ignite in towards the first corner. Ramster going defensive to the inside. Auto Rachelon trying to go right round the outside in towards turn 1. Can he keep a wheel alongside? No, he can't. And Ramster holds on to 6th place for now. Ryan, though, has been able to extend that gap out to 1.7 seconds, has pulled away from the battle for 3rd place, giving him a bit of breathing room, and will be able to try and hunt down that 4.9 second gap to Fluffy Butt, who is on the medium compound tyres, by the way, and has been setting some pretty consistent lap times. And whilst these guys behind have been fighting, the race leader has been able to run his own race. It's the first time in a while that we're going to run single file down in towards the hairpin of turn 14. Alessandro leading this battle for 3rd place. Back down to the battle for 11th place between the Apex teammates. 1.3 seconds now separating Hollywood from Thunderdome, and Long Chicken's not too far behind them. In 14th place, Fancy Locks trying to claw back some time lost after the contact between himself and Long Chicken down towards the hairpin at turn 14. And we have had one retirement from this race. Baba Yaga, after having contact at turn 3, no longer is running in this race. We're on board with Rupee in the Nissan GTR, following Alessandro in front of him, looking to try and get himself onto the podium. You can see the bit of damage that Alessandro has sustained to the rear left of that car. A little bit of contact during this race won't affect his performance, though. It's only visual damage, but you can see the closing speed from Rupee. He looks to the inside, but in the end he doesn't decide to send it, just backs off on that potential move as the drivers make their way now down the hairpin through turn 14. Rupee not getting the best of exits, it seems. Has lost a little bit of time, might be saving fuel though, might be running in a lower engine mode, or a higher engine mode I should say. There's a Skyline running a little bit wide through the first corner. Might lose him a little bit of time to Ramster behind, who's on a charge through the field. Started this race in 5th, but it'll be interesting to see how his strategy played out, being so high up at the start of the race on the medium compound tyres. And that gap out in front has come down, 3.9 seconds now, separating the top 2. Fluffy Butt started this race on pole position and has led the majority of this race. Ryan's done well to carve his way through the field. As we are just over half race distance through this race. We're about to start lap 27 of 48. These drivers being put through just over a 1 hour endurance, I believe. Fastest lap so far, 1:25.6 from Skyline. I believe that's the lap time that he set in his first stint on the soft compound tyres. 25.6 though does beat some time, it nearly beats the time that he set in qualifying under perfect race conditions. Time trial conditions, sorry. But as the different strategies begin to come into play, the gaps begin to open up between these drivers that have been for so long battling in the midfield. The ones that made up time in the pit stop falling a little bit towards the back, and those who took slightly longer to change tyres and put in a bit more fuel have found their way, making their way towards the front. But you can see on the mini-map the train of cars that are making their way down the back straight through the tunnels of the mountains at Deep Forest Raceway. None of them in a prime position to go for an overtake. They're all running about 1.2 seconds between each other, which is just outside of that crucial slipstream range. You need to feel the effects of the tow. But as it stands, Fluffy Butt leads this race from Ryan. The top two separated by about 3.6 seconds. And that gap isn't coming down as quickly as it used to be. 26.6 for Fluffy Butt, 26.5 for Ryan. He is starting to run out of fuel, but still has a lot of life left in his tyres. I would have thought he would have wanted to have gone a little bit longer on that set of soft. Likewise, Alessandro has got a lot more fuel, as does Rupee. Ramster has the most fuel of the top six, and we'll be looking to extend this stint on the soft compound tyres. As Ryan does come into the pits at the end of lap 27, as does Skyline. And despite having probably the most fuel and the best tyres out the cars around him, the German driver's into the pits. Is this to ditch the medium compound tyres and do a final stint on a set of softs or two? Let's see what tyres he goes on to. Fuel going into that Porsche. Likewise for Ryan's Lamborghini. Ryan opts for the mediums, and it's fuel and softs for Skyline. So Skyline triggering the undercut in order to try and get the jump on the cars around him. I think the strategy is really up in the air for a lot of these drivers. Lots of variations in how these drivers are approaching this race. Maybe some of them thought it'd be a different start of race. Some may be going for more fuel to get themselves out of the action, out of the chaos. But we'll have to wait and see how this one fares out in the end, with drivers putting in different levels of fuel, so taking their tyres to a different number of laps, some pushing them more than others, and some taking a conservative approach to this race. Two Apex drivers have got a car in between them. This is not what Skyline would have hoped for, but thankfully for him, Deep Forest Raceway is a fairly easy track to overtake, and he's caught the car in front on the start-finish straight, and we'll be looking to eye up an easy move into turn one. He's on a fresh set of soft compound tyres compared to Hollywood on a slightly worn set of mediums, but Skyline late on the brakes down the inside and moves up into 10th place, and that's easier said than done. Not easier said than done. What's the opposite of easier said than done? Because he runs deep in towards turn one, now runs side by side with the M6, but now eventually gets the move done in towards turn three. And a mistake that nearly cost him. Sat behind that M6 through this technical middle sector of Deep Forest, but does eventually get in front. Alessandro and Rupee are running low on fuel, which means Ramster will be looking to try and get the jump on them in the pit stops. Of course, the two cars in front will have to pit and refuel. As Ryan in that Lamborghini will be looking to try and catch up to Whack Jams, racing for Project Racing United. And I promise you guys, I will get used to who is racing for each team hopefully by the next race at Otopolis, I'll be able to name them off in a click of a finger. But right now we have 18 laps to go here at Deep Forest, and the Fluffy Butt has a 5-second gap to Alessandro behind, but a couple of cars have made their pit stops and will be looking to pull off an undercut. For those of you who don't know what an undercut is, it's when you pit earlier than the car in front or behind to fit on a fresh set of rubber and use the grip on that fresh side to try and undercut and jump the car around you. The opposite, of course, being the overcut, where you stay out for a couple laps longer and use the fresh tyres to close down that gap and hopefully make an easier overtake for yourself being on a fresher set of tyres. Speaking of, we're going to see a fresh set of tyres on Ramster's Honda and Rupi's Nissan. I think he's in the Nissan. As they pit off of the softs, and will end this race on maybe a set of the mediums, but I think the softs could go to the end of the race from here. We'll have to wait and see, especially where they filter out onto the circuit. Ramster could get the jump on Rupi. Let's have a look at the fuel differences that they put in. It's 68 for Ramster. Does he get out ahead? Yes, he does. He jumps Rupi in the pit stops and exits behind Skyline. 1.2 seconds behind the German. Skyline on the softs. Ramster also on the softs, but has that lap fresher soft compound tyres, which could give him a slight advantage towards the end of the race. Let me know in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, who do you think is on course to win this race? Which team takes your fancy? It's been a race that's so far been controlled by Fluffy Butt, who's led the race from the pole. Didn't need a couple of those laps where a couple of drivers stayed out. But Fluffy Butt has continued to set quick and consistent lap times in this race. He's running low on fuel and will be into the pit in due course. I'm not sure Anomina has enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. I'm not sure that looks like 16 laps of fuel, but we'll have to wait and see. He might choose to finish this race on a set of the soft compound tyres. Skyline, though, has caught up to the back of Ryan, who's on the medium compound tyres. The Belgian will be finishing this race on that yellow stripes tyre unless he makes what looks like an unscheduled pit stop between now and the checkered flag. And he's going to have to do some defending from the cars behind him on arguably a faster set of tyres. Alessandro as well, he's got Ramster closely in his rear view mirrors. And so where we had that kind of medium phase, that middle stage of the race where the strategies kind of separated the drivers, we're now at that phase of the race where the drivers are being brought back together as they converge on their different tyres and fuel load. Here comes Skyline charging down on Ryan through the tunnel, exiting the back straight, down and towards the hairpin of turn 14. Behind them, Alessandro and Ramster battling out on the circuit. As Anomina and Tominus are into the pits of the mediums and the softs, one with a lot more fuel than the other. We're on board with Skyline in the Porsche 911, hunting down the Lamborghini Huracan in towards the first corner. Is he close enough to be able to send it down the inside, over the hill behind them? Alessandro coming out ahead of Ramster. Anomina into the pits, not exiting just yet. Fuel's going to go into the back of that car. Anomina, though, leaves the pit lane on the soft compound tyres in 7th place, 5 seconds behind the car in front. And speaking of that, Skyline with a beautiful move on Ryan to move himself up into 2nd place. Just about missed the move for second place. What happened? The Lamborghini getting out of shape on the inside curb, hits the barrier, and that allows Skyline to swoop it round the outside at turn 5 and promote the German up into second place. Lovely stuff, capitalising on that mistake, and the race leaders into the pits of the mediums. Four cars battling for 2 spots on the podium, but which order will they be, and where will Fluffy Butt filter out into this? Fuel being put into the back of that Aston Martin as Skyline's coming around the final corner. This could be close between Fluffy Butt and the drivers for the top 5. He's exiting the pit lane now. Watch for the drivers on the left hand side. He goes into turn 1 in the lead of the race, ahead of Skyline and ahead of Ryan. Not by much though, 1 second now, separating the race leader from second place. Skyline's tyres are up to temperature, but they are 6 laps older than the race leaders. He's purple through sector 1. He is pushing that Porsche right to the end of this race. Behind, there's a 3-car fight for the final step on the podium. All the drivers on the fresh set of soft compound tyres, apart from Ryan, who's ended on this stint on the mediums. It's going to be a tough job for Ryan if he is to secure this spot on the podium. But what about Skyline fighting for the lead of this race and ultimately the victory, as Ryan in the background defending the inside line from Alessandro, who's late on the brakes, round the outside. Can he make this stick? That's an unbelievable overtake. No, it's not. He's been spun around. Rams has been caught up in the incident, and through goes Rupee on the inside. The German moves up into third place after capitalising on an overtake attempted by Alessandro, but caught up with Ryan, who's now into the pits. And the Nomina will pick up the pieces and gain 2 positions down the start-finish straight, down the inside and towards the first corner. And this race has erupted towards the end of the lap 35, sorry, on to 36. 5 tenths though, separating the race leaders. Fluffy Butt ahead of Skyline. Apex ahead of Project Platypus. The Aston Martin just gaining a straight line speed over the Porsche, but Skyline brings it back in the slipstream of the race leader. For 11th place though, the 2 Apex drivers are battling out on track. Thunderdome's got ahead of Hollywood, 4 tenths between the two BMW M6s. But drama between the drivers in the midfield. Let's have another watch of this one. Lap 35. A deciding move for the podium, ending in a spin. Alessandro attempts it right round the outside, then gets caught on the curb and by Ryan. Ramsden had nowhere to go. And that's how Alessandro dropped down into 6th place, now following a Nomina. Skyline's got a good exit on the back of turn 10. Down the back straight we go for the 37th time this evening. 7 tenths separating the top 2. Fluffy Butt started this race on pole position, set the fastest lap time in qualifying, but it's Skyline who has the fastest lap of the race. The German has the upper hand on the Aston Martin. through the first sector, but the Aston Martin just has that just has the legs on that Porsche to keep it at bay down the straight. Ryan is fully approving the Apex livery. I think it was the Apex livery. I can't quite remember what he said in the chat. It was the Apex car, and it is a beautiful livery. Several drivers, or several teams, I should say, have produced beautiful liveries for the fourth season of the Esports League. Fluffy Butt's just got that gap up to a second over the car behind. Ramster trying to close back that gap to Rupee after watching the cars collide in front of him a few laps ago. Only a second separating him and the car in front of him. He's purple to the middle sector, fastest of anyone through sector 2. Are there enough laps left in this race to add another contender to win this race? We'll have to wait and see. 25.9 for Ramster, 29.7 for Fluffy Butt. He's not as quick, but he's matching the leaders though. Matching but not beating in the last couple of laps. Can he cross the line and set a new fastest lap time of the race? He can't with the 25.7. He needs to find another 10.5 to do that. As the fuel goes down though, he might have another opportunity if he can get a lap time in before the tyres begin to wear all too much. Speaking of, Skyline is on 6 lap older soft compound tyres than Fluffy Butt, who's in the lead of this race. Team Apex looking to take a win here in Lobby B with 10 laps to go here at the Swiss Grand Prix, but never say never. Whereas the result is not finalised. Even after the checkered flag falls, there could still be a steward's inquiry, but I believe that the South African has kept himself out of trouble throughout the course of this race, having started on pole position and led the majority of the 39 laps that we have raced so far. Ramster's the closest he's ever been on the back of Rupee, going through turns 17 and 18. Now down the start, finish straight to start lap number 40 in the battle for the final spot on the podium between the Dane and the German, down towards turn 1. Rami not quite close enough on this occasion to go for the move, but we'll have another opportunity towards the end of this race. Sun slowly setting in the background. Meanwhile, that gap has just opened up to 1.7 seconds between the top two. I think Fluffy Butt just has a little bit more grip, not more tyres to work with than Skyline, but I'm sure the Porsche driver will be doing his utmost best to keep that gap as small as possible. You never know, a penalty for Fluffy Butt could change this race. One slight mistake, a missed braking point, could bring the German back into contention for a lead of this race. But for the final spot on the podium, it's Spider GT versus FGR. Ramster's in the attacking seat down the start finish straight. Which way would he go? Would he go left? Would he go right? He's going to go straight on and work with the German as they are closing that gap to the top two. Was 5.7 to the leader, now 5.3. Two potential applicants for a race winner Maybe, we'll have to wait and see. Behind them, Alessandro is trying to pounce and attack on Anomina in the closing stages of this race. Autonomous finds himself in a bit of no man's land ahead of Whack Jumps in 9th place. Ryan, after that crash, rounding out the top 10, looking to close down that gap to the Brits in front. Both Apex drivers have been a bumper to rear wing for the majority of this race, running in 11th and 12th place. And Longchick and Bouncy Locks haven't quite been able to recover from their lap 2 incident down at turn 14. Ramster though has actually got the move done on Rupee, down and towards the hairpin. Can Rupee fight back in towards turn 1? The German, looking at the back of the Honda, pulls over to the left hand side of the circuit but just tucks back into the slipstream as they get to the apex of turn 1. And if the race director would be so kind to bring up a replay, we can see how Ramster done that move. Late on the brakes, down the inside, in towards the hairpin. And promotes himself up into the podium position. It's not over yet though, because Rupee stuck with him through the middle sector, down through turn 9, tricky left-hander before one of the most important corners on the track, turn 10. Get a good exit here and it sets you up down the back straight in towards a good overtaking opportunity, but it looks like Ramster's got a good enough exit to keep Rupee behind. The gap out in front is beginning to get bigger, Fluffy Butt pulling away from Skyline, and the Germans beginning to come into view. Ramster will be looking at the back of that car thinking, I can get him. There's still a chance for a couple more points for the Spider GT driver. Of course, Spider GT got 2 drivers into Lobby A this week. We've still got the battle for 5th place between Anomina and Alessandro. I think we might have 6 different teams inside the top 6. And I'm going to put my foot down and confirm that, I think. 6 different teams inside the top 6, 7 inside the top 7, sorry. Which just goes to show how close the teams are all fighting for crucial points at this stage of the championship. It is only round 2, but every point is vital to qualify for the final 2 races of the season. And this may be Lobby B, and you don't get as much points as you do in Lobby A, but every point is crucial in securing your team a top 5 finish by the time we finish round 6. Ryan has got the move done on Whack Jumps and up into 9th place. That might be a track limits violations for the Brits, who just, I think, went over the white line, and indeed it was. And he will drop half a second back when he crosses the penalty gate on the next lap. We're on board with Alessandro once again from his driver's eye as we watch chase down the back of that Porsche 911 for the spot inside the top 5 from today's race. And he's got nothing in his rearview mirrors to distract him from any cars behind. 7.8 seconds ahead of Auto Ruchelon. Please correct me if I'm saying that wrong, by the way. If you are watching after the race, that would be I hope I'm saying that right. Lap 44 of 48, 5 laps to go. Fluffy Butt leads from Skyline about 3.5 seconds between those two. Ramster, though, has closed down that gap to the second place driver in this race. Can he put his Honda NSX one step better on the podium and secure a second place finish? We'll have to wait and see. But as the sun is setting behind the trees at turn 1, the laps are counting down and time is running out for a late attack for second place. Both of which, Rupi and Ramster are on similar tyre life, but look at the wear on those soft compound tyres for Skyline. He pitted early compared to the cars around him, and has he perhaps pushed a little bit too much in hunting down Fluffy Butt? Could he have left himself vulnerable to an attack from Ramster? The gap now 1.3 seconds with 3 laps to go when we cross the start-finish line. We could be in for a showdown finish here at Deep Forest Raceway. It's Project Platypus versus Spider GT for second place on the racetrack. I'm not sure about any post-race penalties that could be awarded. There have been a couple of incidents in the upper midfield. Alessandro, though, is still closing on a nomina. It is not over yet for a top 5 finish. Of course, was spun out in an attempt to go around the outside of Ryan at turn 14 on lap 35, but on lap 46 with 3 laps to go, he's still pushing for a top 5 finish in this race, as is Ramster hunting down Skyline for second place. Skyline suffering from significant wear to his front right tyre compared to car number 424 behind him. The gap just 3 tenths and closing. Now 2 tenths separating the battle for second place. Is Ramster close enough to send one down the inside? He thought about it, but backs off in the end. We'll wait for a better opportunity, but the laps are running out. He's not got the best of exits, a bit loosey-goosey on the rear, exiting the hairpin of turn 14, which means he won't be close enough to go for it in towards the first corner. We're onto the penultimate lap of the race, though, being led by Fluffy Butt, who started this race on the pole position. Meanwhile, Hollywood trying to get himself into the top 10. Can he go right round the outside of Whack Jumps in towards turn 14? He can't on this occasion, but he's nearly pushing the back of the GTR, going down the start-finish straight. He has the inside line. He's side by side with the Brits, going down down the pit straight and across the line, side by side and wheel to wheel. Late on the brakes, Hollywood down the inside. Whack tries the old up and under and cuts back on the inside. They're going to still run side by side, but it's Hollywood into the top 10. As Skyline leads Ramster down the back straight. 3 tenths between the two. Ramster thought about a move on the last lap. Is he going to send one on this lap? He's late on the brakes, but Skyline defends to the inside. Might compromise his run down in towards turn 1. The number of opportunities are running out for Ramster if he's to finish in second place and get the jump on Skyline. Fluffy Butt starts the last lap of the race, the final 4.2 kilometres, only 18 corners to go here in the Switzerland Grand Prix. Skyline defends the inside, but Ramster finds room. Skyline's late on the brakes, his brakes illuminating red hot, but he's gone a bit too deep. Ramster finds the door open on the inside and they go side by side up the hill through turn 2 in towards the right-hander at turn 3. They're door to door, they are side by side through sector 1. with only 12 corners to go. 3 kilometres of racing action left here in Deep Forest Raceway. Skyline just about staying ahead of Ramster in the closing stages of this race. This could go down right to the wire, but it's a bit of a wobble from the German that opens a door of opportunities for Ramster. Does he go left? Does he go right? It's the left hand side of your screen, right hand side of the track, through the tunnel, side by side on the final lap of the race. One braking zone to go. Who's going to be latest on the brakes? They're just about even. Skyline though on the inside forces Ramster wide onto the curb. Has the Honda got the legs on the Porsche to pull up alongside across the line? But for one man who started on pole, it's Fluffy Butt who wins here in Deep Forest Raceway. Up to the line, Skyline versus Ramster. Project Platypus in second and Spider GT in third. Rupee gets fourth ahead of Anomina in fifth. Alessandro couldn't quite pounce an attack on Anomina, finishes in seventh. Auto Rachelon will cross the line in 7th place. Autonomous in 8th place, and Ryan crosses the line in 9th. Unfortunate for him to have been involved in that accident late on in the race. Apex Hollywood beating out Whack Jumps for the top space in the top 10. Thunderdome just finishing a couple of positions behind his teammates, and the two drivers that were involved in the lap 2 accident find themselves together on track once again in the battle for 13th place. But when they cross the line for the final time this evening, it's going to be Fancy Locks who beats out Long Chicken to a 13th place, but Fluffy Butt controlled this race from start to finish, was under pressure under the after the pit stops, but controlled it ever since he retook the lead of the race. This is how your grid finished for Lobby B for Season 4, Round 2 here at Deep Forest. Fluffy Butt wins from pole position in the Aston Martin V12 Vantage for Team Apex, ahead of Skyline for Project Platypus in third and Ramster in third. For Spider GT, and also claimed the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 25.5. It's Rupee in fourth, ahead of Anomina in fifth, Alessandro in sixth, Auto Rachelon in seventh, Autonomous in 8th, Ryan in 9th, and Hollywood just rounding out the top 10. Whack Jumps finished in 11th, ahead of Thunderdome in 12th, Fancy Locks in 13th, Long Chicken in 14th, and Baba Yaga our own one and only retirement from this race. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the action from the ALR Esports League Round 4 Season 2 at Deep Forest Raceway. Hope you guys enjoyed the commentary. It was my first commentary for this league, and hopefully it was good enough to continue for the rest of the season. Join us next week where these drivers will be battling out on track once again as we head over to Japan for the race at Autopolis, a track that's quite difficult to overtake and might be determined on race strategy. Hopefully I'll see lots of you lovely viewers there once again, and I'll see you all next week. Goodbye.